Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Steven?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm Stephen Billings. That's I'm going with the proper opening, a less abrasive opening. I'm Stephen Billings. Andrew Cabral is here with me. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm good. Glad to have you with me. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
As always. Last week's episode is a bit of a fever dream for me, or for us in general. Episode number 70 with Sean Baker is up, and we're back here once again. You just have the two of us this time. No special super duper guest. But it was just a great episode in general. And
yeah, as we said,
when you go from that high, we're coming back down.
Now we can give you we'll give you a break of excitement. Half of you will probably not even just listen to this episode because you're like, oh, it's just them. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, if they're not listening, we can say whatever we want about them, I guess.
Yeah,
they won't be listening anyway.
It's fine. Some of you just probably listen for the guests. It's okay. I know we're not that interesting. It's fine. But all right, so we're going to talk Blu-rays like we always like to do on this show.
Indeed. That's the name of the game.
But before we get into the normal announcements, any since this is kind of a lean week, we don't have a ton of
lean week.
Yeah, not a ton of announcements. We're going to bullshit a little bit here. We do have some sales going on, a lot of sales, and I think me and you have been picking up a few things. Maybe not all from sales, but yeah, so Andrew,
taking advantage of the sales while you can. They all seem to hit at the same time every year, either all together or consecutively or within the same week or a couple of days. And, by the time this episode gets released, a lot of these sales will be over. But they've been taking up a good portion of our time over the last, week or two or so. And I've gotten a couple of things here and there. Obviously, I took advantage of the indicator sale. They only have 2 flash sales a year, which I didn't realize that until just this past sale announcement. I'm like, yeah, they really only have 2 flash sales, so you got to take advantage of them. And I was able to get a few things. Luckily, one of the things I got was sold out very, very soon afterwards. By sell out, I mean like the limited edition. I always like to get the limited editions, but I got Light Sleeper, the Paul Schrader film. And then I got the Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings, which we talked about way back when on the show. And I really like that movie a lot, and I wanted to pick it up ever since I got to watch it. But then I ended up making up for lost time with Mae West in Hollywood, 1932-1943, the mega 10-film, gorgeous-looking set that came out at the end of last year. It was kind of their grand finale of last year. So, of course, a year later, I finally got my hands on it. I can't wait to get that in the mail. But patience is the key. Steve, have you been getting anything from anybody?
Only of the sales, the only thing I did partake in was the Criterion sale.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a $10 coupon also, so I basically got the film for which you get it at the Barnes & Noble sale, about $19-20. And so I decided to pick up Pink Flamingos. John Waters.
Film.
Yeah, it's
kind of one of the films he's famous for.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen it yet, but I knew this was like a kind of a seminal film of his.
Yeah, it's the seminal trash, filthy film.
Yeah, which is literally what the movie's about. Is about people trying to like compete for who's the filthiest in the world. Yeah, basically,
who could just be the most disgusting person.
Which
I think Divine takes it by a mile.
Yeah, I mean the literal last scene of the movie is the thing that most people remember the most about this movie, which is watching her pick up dog shit and eating it, with a smile on her face.
Yeah, then it was one take. It was real. It's interesting the way John Waters has described it. Just like they just didn't give a shit. They were just like, yeah, we'll do it, whatever. Doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like it was like fucking nothing. To us viewers, it's like, oh, it's so ridiculous, so over the top, so disgusting. And like to them it's like, nah, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean it's
I own it, and I'm glad I finally got a Criterion release.
And the interesting thing about the release too is it has it's like a rare, like it's almost like a slipcover that most other labels have, but Criterion doesn't usually carry.
Criterion does not do slipcovers
proper
regularly.
Yeah.
They do it sometimes, but they have it wrapped as a package you would receive in the mail, because that does also play into the movie as well.
Yeah.
It's just, it works into the theme and the overall, part of the movie. It's John Waters is not for everybody. I've said that multiple times.
He's kind of, as I've gotten more into exploitation cinema, it's. You realize where somebody like a John Waters stands out, because he's not only is he like being exploitative and he's doing these kind of like off the wall things, but he's also got commentary running in his films that some lesser
social commentary. Especially for the time. I don't think people realize this, but back in the 60s, there's certain movies that you weren't allowed to watch. Like, they would arrest you for watching certain movies. That's how things were culturally back then. He's told many stories about underground screenings where the cops would come in and bust up things, and people would get arrested and whatnot. It's so foreign to us today because we have so much, I would say, freedom and access to movies that we can watch them in the comfort of our own home, and it's no big thing. They're streaming for a price you can pay, an affordable price, where back then, like, you had to do it for with fear of getting arrested. So his films were kind of born out of that anti-establishment world, so that's why they're so cultural of the time. But yeah, I'm glad you got to watch it.
Yeah,
it's more people are getting to watch it in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that these films,
survive.
Yeah, I mean, they still exist in the way they do. I'm glad they do, man, because we talk about it all the time. I am a proponent for loving all things, whether they're considered to be good or not. I just like having them, and So not other than that,
other than that, I ended up getting something myself from the flash sale because, of course, I couldn't hold back. I ended up getting the Blu-ray box set of Eric Rohmer's 6 Moral Tales.
Nice.
And I was lucky enough, because this is true as of now. They may stop this at some point, but you can stack these coupon codes that they send to your email, whether you are a Criterion Channel subscriber or whether you have a Criterion account on their website. They don't send them as often as they used to, but they do send them, and you can hold on to them. They don't expire, and you can stack them at checkout. So I was able to stack 2, and I was able to get that box set for a very affordable price. I did the same thing with the Agnes Varda set during a flash sale.
Dude, you had like 5 coupons.
I had like 4 of them, I think. And it was like 4 for. I ended up getting the set for like under $100 or something. It was like ridiculous, and I was just like, I had to take advantage of it. But you can stack them as of now. They may wise up and get rid of them, because you used to be able to do that at Barnes & Noble during the Criterion sale, where you could stack coupons. on top of coupons and stack them on top of your,
Well,
your
it's a
discount
little
card.
different.
Then they got rid of that years ago, and now they're like they wouldn't even let you use your rewards card for Barnes and Noble anymore on them.
It's a little different
annoying.
though, because I mean, you're looking at a retailer who's trying to get as much out of it as possible. When you're buying directly from Criterion, they're getting all the money. So it's like,
Yeah, perhaps they care less.
well, I mean, I'm just saying, like it's their coupon. They paid for it. I mean, you're buying from them, so there's no like middleman. So I don't
There's
think
no middleman. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to care so much about you stacking something that they provided for you anyway.
Right.
Right.
It's but that's a couple. Yeah, that's a couple of sale items, things that we got.
I got a couple other things other than sale stuff. I mean, stuff that was some of it was kind of like lingered over from before last episode because like I was trying to get Red Rocket on Blu-ray to watch it before I talked to Sean Baker, but it got held up because of the holiday on Monday last week because we had Indigenous Peoples Day or what people call Columbus Day. Some people do. So that held up my mail, and so I didn't get Red Rocket until after Sean Baker's episode. But and I watched it, and I loved it.
Oh, my goodness. See, Steven doesn't tell me any of these things until we got to the show.
Yeah, why would I do that when I can talk about it on the show?
I guess because it's all good content.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk about I don't want to talk. I don't get all my talk out with you off mic. I'm trying to get it on mic. That's
true. That's
good. I mean,
good. See, that's good producing right there.
I know.
For me, once I get something in my head, I got to get it out, or else maybe I'll forget about it. But Steven has a much more controlled mind than mine.
Well, I'm just too tired, like to call or talk to somebody any other time.
That's also very true.
This is my time to talk about movies now.
What did you think of Red Rocket?
I loved it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's I mean, he just the film, just the filmmaking itself, like he's got such a grain on that movie. Like I was watching, my wife came in and she's like, why does it look so old? Like, it's like, this is a new movie. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's great. I think I'm assuming he shot on like 16 millimeter. Like he's going for that grainy aesthetic, like it's on purpose.
Well, I think he also mentioned last step when we interviewed him that the budget for that movie is significantly small.
Yeah.
So it was a very small production because they had to do it during COVID with all the precautions and all the stuff. So it had to be a small crew and small everything. And yeah, that definitely lent into the kind of aesthetic of it all. And what is interesting is that we talked about John Waters. For me, I felt that influence in that movie.
I could see that a little bit, yeah.
Just because the characters that they're dealing with, kind of these, like, not sleazy, but, small town, southern, kind of characters, with, very gray morals. Very gray morals. But yeah, what else did you think about it? Because there's so much to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely you got a guy who like you said, like you described it, he at one point his status was high, he was a sought after male porn actor, and now he's kind of on the downswing and is making his way back to his hometown where he's going to mooch off of his ex-wife and her mother. So he's using people left and right just to get by, and he's trying to find his way back into the industry, and he then leeches onto this young 17-year-old girl. That's
where the sleaziness of it all really makes you feel dirty.
Yeah, I remember when the film came out, all the kind of controversy around it, and initially as I was watching it, I was like, so I guess the controversy was that he's hitting on this 17, he's trying to get with this 17-year-old girl.
He's lusting after an underage girl.
Well, it's not even, the thing is in Texas, 17 is the legal consent in Texas.
Oh, okay.
So technically she's not underage, but I think the fact that he's
still
it is gross,
objectionable.
But I think it's more gross that he's grooming her to be a porn star.
Yeah, than anything. That's the problem with age of consent being that low is there's grooming, there's predatory behavior, and the film is very much commentating on that because this guy's he's got an ego on him, he's also very selfish and trying to like get his way back to where he was.
Yeah, he's very single-minded. He's only really looking out for himself. He's not. I think there's likable qualities about him, but I think ultimately by the end of the movie, you realize that the guy's only looking out for number one, and
he's trashy. He's a terrible person.
He's pretty bad. I mean, something happens. I don't want to ruin the movie. Something happens where people get hurt, and he's involved, and he looks for a way out without trying to be involved. So he's not a great dude, but I like the movie a lot. I think it's probably Sean Baker's funniest film, personally. I mean, I haven't seen 5-letter words yet, but but I've seen everything.
It is his most. I wouldn't say different film, but it's his most. I don't know. It is a bit of a different film than his previous films, which are more low key and more, more humanistic. But this is in that same vein, but it just felt like there were some things that were like, wow, I can't believe he's going in that direction, specifically with that character. I really dug it a lot. It's good. I would definitely recommend people to check that out, specifically if you like all of his other works. This one ties in there very well.
Yeah.
I know it was a big hit at Cannes.
Yeah.
Big hit at the Cannes Film Festival. That's where I first heard buzz about it coming out of there.
Yeah, and the other stuff I got was this was a recommendation from Andrew Furtado, who we will have on next week. And we'll be talking some horror-themed stuff. I guess I can tease it kind of. There's a Hong Kong company called, or not company, but rating system called Category 3. We'll be talking about Category 3 films next week with Andrew Furtado, along with our normal Blu-ray slate stuff. But he had mentioned, had put a post out there about a film called The Seventh Curse from that 88 Films put out. So I just picked that up. Don't know nothing really about it other than it's like a Asian like action horror mashup kind of thing. It looks cool. So I just took a chance on that. And then the other big thing I got was the Get Carter 4K from BFI.
I got that coming too.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I got this all from our sponsor Orbit DVD. Just want to say that.
I did an Orbit DVD. I got some stuff coming from them as well, including that Get Carter 4K, which I'm really excited about because I've never owned the movie. I've seen it, but I've never owned it. Yeah,
and I got the Tropic Thunder 4K coming as well.
Nice.
So I should have that next week. I can't wait to watch that.
We got stuff. Yeah, we always got stuff come in, as I'm pretty sure many of our listeners do as well. But yeah, speaking of which, I guess we'll transition into some stuff I got announced this week. I always say we got some lean weeks. This may be the leanest of lean weeks.
This really might be the leanest week I think we've ever had.
Hence why we're just talking about a bunch of random things that we typically don't talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, usually I leave my things that I buy to just Instagram
posts.
Pictures and maybe in our group posting about it. But I typically leave that to that and don't talk too much about it on here. But we will start out with talking about something that we were supposed to talk about last week, but we kind of forgot it. And that is that Radiance Films is now putting out a UK editions of some Fun City Editions releases. And so they're starting out with so basically Fun City Editions has become a partner label to Radiance in the UK. So they're putting out UK editions of Married to the Mob and Cutter's Way. So
the two most recent Fun City Editions releases as of this recording.
Yeah. So that's great. I mean, I think that not only does it, give more opportunities for people to get these editions from Fun City, but, also it's just great to see that Radiance, you're starting to see kind of a slow unfold of the mindset of what Fran is going to do, with this label. Like, now now we see that he's not only going to be having a core Radiance Films, brand that he's pushing with these, very obscure titles and things like that, but also that he's going to be having some partner labels that will be getting, will not only be giving more reach to other labels, but also be, just putting more, eyes on Radiance. And I love it. And, the Married to the Mob Blu-ray has different artwork. So if you're all about slip covers and all that stuff, having everything, there's a different slipcover for this UK edition of Married to the Mob. So if that matters to you, you know, you might want to get both editions. I don't know.
Yeah, Married to the Mob is probably one of Fun City's most popular releases because it's already sold out in both the limited and standard edition form on Vinegar Syndrome's website.
And that's the US version.
And that's the US version, but I'm just saying.
So now you have a second chance.
Desperate, if you're desperate, you can get this UK version. But yeah, their stuff is selling out really quickly. Yeah, I'm that's a cool concept. You know, taking that model and making it international with Radiance makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
it gives you more variety. Gives
it does.
You more to choose from.
I mean, it's good for both. It's good for both of them. It's good for Radiance because they get to, you know, team up with a great label, and you know, bring people to their, you know, helps just bring more variety. And then, you know, of course, for Fun City, it's great because they're branching out to the UK. You know, they're getting UK releases of their films, so it's great all around.
Yeah,
but, yeah,
cool.
Let's move on to some new stuff. Kind of almost hinting back at last week. We got another Blue Underground release, which is another Jess Franco film coming in 4K. What do we got?
Isn't it Marquis de Sade's Philosophy in the Boudoir?
That's it. You said it better than I could have.
Yeah, I think that is the title. It's another Jess Franco film. Excuse me while I pull up the
or it's
form.
Called Eugene.
Is that what it's called?
Or it's called Eugenie or
hold on,
Eugenie. It's the English.
What's interesting is if you type in Eugene. If you type in Eugene on IMDb, all you get is Eugene Levy, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Which makes a lot of sense.
The only Eugene.
The only Eugene that matters is Eugene Levy, of course. But yeah, that is another Jess Franco film. It's the second Jess Franco film that they're putting out in the same time frame, and it's Marquis de Sade's Philosophy in the Boudoir, or you said Eugenie. Came out in 1970. This is a 4K UHD release.
It says
HDR mastered.
It says an innocent girl goes to spend the weekend on an island with a woman and her brother, but soon she finds herself entangled in a web of dreamlike sexual experiences or experiments. Sounds like
a Jess Franco film to me.
Sounds like a Bergman film.
Yeah.
A Swedish island. Come on now.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't say Swedish island, but it could be a Swedish island.
It could very well be a Swedish.
Sounds like Persona to me. No.
I mean, that's not.
No, I'm just
that's
kidding.
not out of the realm of possibilities. But yeah, this is another yet again between all these companies, more Jess Franco we keep getting.
It seems like Blue Underground and Severin, and a little bit of Vinegar Syndrome are all just pulling at the Jess Franco lever, and we're gonna see a lot more.
Yeah, the original title is called Eugenie. You're right.
Yeah,
that's why I couldn't find it on IMDb.
Yeah,
because it's not even called what we just called.
Well, see, what I did was on the Blu-ray.com article, I just clicked on the title there, and it sends you to a page that also has a link to the IMDb.
Oh, genius!
I know, right? Genius.
Yeah, I couldn't find it on that. But I'll say this: Christopher Lee is in the movie. Don't know what his role is.
Look at that. Christopher Lee, who's also, in no Bergman films, so that I'm aware of.
I guess that's true.
Damn it.
That is very true. I just can't get over how many films there are of Jess Franco. He's got like 200 credits.
Yeah,
of directing
it's like when are we going to get around to the what's his name? The Japanese director that's got tons of movies.
Oh, Takashi Miike.
Takashi Miike. When are we going to start seeing all the Takashi Miike?
There are like a lot of his stuff is out there. A lot of his recent stuff.
It is, but I feel like a lot of the Blu-ray releases are kind of like old Blu-ray releases. That
you gotta hunt them down.
Yeah.
Man, we could do a whole. This is like.
Didn't he? He's not even. I mean, he's like. I think what is he like in his 60s or? He might be a little.
He was born in 1960, so do the math on that.
Yeah, he's about 60 something, but he's got like over 100 credits already.
Yeah, he does have 100 credits, but of course he's done films like Audition, Ichi the Killer, 13 Assassins, which I do own.
Oh yeah, it's great.
That's an amazing.
We're going on a
movie.
tangent on something
Blade of the
completely.
Immortal. Yeah, I know.
I was gonna say Blades of the Immortal was one of the last films he did. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that came out in 2017, and he's done.
How many films has he done?
A lot of stuff since. That's like, yeah, damn.
He's a machine.
I wish he would get. Yeah, I wish he would get more stuff.
I can't wait for the box set of his films.
Yeah, it's like just a 100-movie box set.
Yeah,
it's gonna cost $1,000.
Yeah.
I'm just making.
It's gonna be like that vendor set. It's gonna be huge, but
just massive.
Yeah,
but
all right.
Yes, so that's the Jess Franco, Eugenie, from Blue Underground. Like I said, the Blue Underground stuff is all their 4Ks from all I've heard are all fantastic.
Yeah,
they all look great. A little bit on the expensive side, but they all look great.
That's part of the game. They don't put out a ton of releases, so it's like,
No, yeah. But moving on.
Yeah, we got Second Sight, who's another company that you don't see a ton of releases from.
Are you talking about Second Run?
Or sorry, Second Run. You're right.
Nice.
Second Run.
Because there's Second Sight, there's Second Run.
Yeah.
And they're both British labels.
Yeah. Second Run, which I think isn't that like a branch off of Arrow? I thought maybe it's like Arrow or another label that like teams with them or something.
No, I think they're their own.
Or they're their own company.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just making up shit.
Yeah, I hear you. But the most important thing that you're not making up is that they're putting out the War Trilogy, 3 films by Andrzej Wajda. And one of these movies has just gotten a Blu-ray release from Criterion within the last year, and that is Ashes and Diamonds. Now, when we covered Ashes and Diamonds, I watched all 3 of these, A Generation, Canal, and Ashes and Diamonds, and they're all just dark, serious, depressing war films.
Yeah.
They're all just like kind of pessimistic films about war and, humanity and stuff like that, but they're fantastic. Now, I was telling Steven, I really wish Criterion would put out their first 2 films on Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure they're coming at some point. Just Criterion takes a long time to do their stuff. But if you don't want to wait, you can get this War Trilogy from Second Run. And it is coming with special features and stuff like that. And it is region-free, which is also fascinating to me. Because typically, something like this wouldn't be region-free.
No.
But I think Ashes and Diamonds may be the only one getting a Blu-ray release. No, they're not the only one getting a special features package. But it's also coming with 3 short films and a booklet and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't own anything from Second Run, so I don't know anything about this company or the quality of their releases or anything like that. They do tend to put out older films, though. 50s, 60s, 70s. That seems to be their wheelhouse.
Yeah. I might have 1 or 2 releases of theirs, maybe. But at this point, I think I've maybe... The thing is with their films, a lot of times there's like an upgraded version or another label's also put out. There's been like, it seems like a lot of their titles are things that are also being put out by a lot of other labels. So there's not, it's like, it's one of them things where you start to pick between whether you like features or you like packaging more, or you like, it's tough sometimes when you got so many labels out there. Some of these labels I think just don't get the attention. And not that they're doing bad work. It's just, it's competition.
It looks like there is some crossover with Criterion, so that must be it, because they did put out a Blu-ray of Daisies in 2018, and then Criterion just announced that they're putting out a Blu-ray of Daisies. Valerie and Her Week of Wonders is a Blu-ray that's been out from Criterion for several years, and they put out a Blu-ray of that back in 2020. So there's crossover here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that is that. And the next, I guess, we'll move on to Flicker Alley, which is another company that doesn't release a lot of stuff, but I love their work. I just got to get some of it to add to my collection. Yet again, it's another thing where a label like Flicker Alley, their stuff is never really on sale. So you kind of just have to bite the bullet and pay whatever the price may be. But we talked a bit about them when we had Eddie Muller on, because one of a film that his Film Noir Foundation was working on got a Blu-ray release around the time he was on, and that was a double feature of The Guilty and High Tide, which did end up coming out last June or so, I think. But they put out a lot of great work over the years, and they do a lot of work with archives like UCLA, Film and Television Archive, the Film Noir Foundation with Eddie Muller, and stuff like that. But this is a double feature of two films by the same director, and this is called Cinematic Journeys, two films by Julian Compton. And Julian Compton, from the little I know of just this release here, she only directed 3 films. She directed the 2 films in this set, which are Stranded, and then the second film is
The Plastic Dome.
The Plastic Dome of Norma Jean.
Yeah.
That is a title and a half to say. And the third film she directed was a film that came out in 1988, and I got to look it up. But it's just kind of interesting how, it's interesting to see another woman filmmaker making films in the 1960s, which you don't really ever get to see. And if you do, they don't really get a lot of not very publicized and whatnot. But the third film she directed in 1987-88 is called Buckeye and Blue, which I don't believe has a Blu-ray release, but stars Robin Lively, who was in, she was in Karate Kid Part 3. She was also in, what movie was she in? She was in Teen Witch. I don't know if you remember the movie Teen Witch, Steven.
No.
They played that, a lot on the Disney Channel back in the 90s. I don't think people realize this, but before the Disney Channel became not even what it is today, but what it was when people were growing up with all their original movies and stuff, they would just play like movies and things and old Disney cartoons, and they would put on things like Teen Witch and stuff like that.
That's the thing about, I'm thinking about you say that's how it was. Even not that long ago, not even maybe 20 years ago,
Well,
I say that out loud, and it is a long time ago.
You realize 20 years ago was 2002.
Yeah, but TV used to be filled up with just rerunning of old things. Now we spend so much time. For the most
part, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, if you weren't watching prime time television, NBC, ABC, CBS, or maybe if you were lucky enough to have premium channels or HBO, it was kind of just a lot of watching the same stuff over and over again.
But now it's the opposite.
Now there's new stuff coming out everywhere.
It's literally more than you could ever watch in your whole life coming out every day. And then the stuff still being there that you'll never get to watch, just backlogging. And yeah, I feel like we're super bloated right now. I feel like all these companies have putting themselves in a position where they feel like they can't, if they stopped it, they'll be done for. They've put themselves in a position where if they don't keep making new things, they think that they'll drown. And that just sucks, because I think we're missing the point of, I think we could be, cutting back and putting out better stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think, Pandora's box has been open in terms of streaming and television and things like that you can't close it back up again. So it's kind of get along for the ride or get off.
But I just feel so. It's one of them things. It could work out in the future as long as all this stuff's still available. That some of the stuff that just never gets discovered gets rediscovered later. But it just sucks to think that you can't really discover anything because you're so overwhelmed. You're only paying attention to what they tell you to pay attention to.
Yeah, everything is kind of over-marketed now than ever before. But yeah, it's a different time.
I'm having weird existential thoughts.
You know what it is? A lot of the stuff we cover, I think, kind of brings that up, because we cover stuff that really doesn't get a lot of spotlights. These are two films I have never heard of before. I never heard of Julian Compton before, or anything like that. And then this is kind of really where, boutique labels are at their best. is educating people on movies or people that you never even heard of before. Even on here, there's audio commentary, there's an interview, there's, informational things on here to give you more context of the situation. I was fortunate enough to get to see The Plastic Dome of Norma Jean. It's about a story of a clairvoyant teenage girl named Norma Jean who struggles between the responsibility of seeing the story, of seeing the future and the attentions of a rock and roll band set on exploiting her powers for profit. And the place in which they kind of have their performances, and she talks about her visions and things like that, is a domed structure. And what happens is, like, they're trying to exploit her for money, but every time she has these visions, it kind of like it weighs on her. She kind of deteriorates. She gets physically tired, mentally tired, and it gets to the point where, like, how much can she keep doing this until it kills her, essentially. And so it's dealing with kind of that kind of exploitation. It reminds me a lot of maybe like Ace in the Hole. Also, I don't know why, I felt a very like early Fellini feeling to the film as well, because there's some zaniness in it, especially third act zaniness reminded me of some Fellini in it.
Does it have that like kind of like that rawness? It felt like they were putting on like a carnival act or like a circus act with this young woman performing these visions for people to come watch and see. Yeah. And it just reminded me of something like a early Fellini. Yeah. But I thought it was really good. I tried to find Stranded, and I just couldn't find it streaming anywhere at all. That movie's about a young American woman portrayed by Julian Compton traveling through Greece with her American lover and her French and gay French gay best friend. A free spirit, Raina rejects the limitations of marriage and domesticity imposed on women of her generation and instead chooses to adventure across Europe on a quest for self-determination. Seems like women's liberation, freedom, freedom of choice, do whatever you want, journey of self-discovery. So that sounded fascinating to me. Well,
kind of wish I could watch it, but now I guess I can.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested because, you said she only did 3 films, and, she did on this edition, there is an interview with her from 2020. So I would love to know, where her career went, if she's still working in the industry in some way, or if she just decided to leave, like, being that she hadn't made a film since, what you said, 1988 or 87 or...
Yeah, 87, 88.
Yeah, so...
What's interesting is if you look on IMDb, it says 87, but if you look on Letterboxd, it says 88.
Okay.
So, I don't know which
it might have been a festival movie or something maybe, or, something like that. But it'd be interesting to hear why she isn't really where her mind is, what she's doing now. And it's, when you see these filmmakers that only did a few films, and especially when the films are good, you're like, what happened? Like...
Some people just decide to leave the industry, I guess. Who knows? That would be a good interview to watch, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, that's Flicker Alley. Where else are we going now, Stephen, in our meager week of releases?
Well, we have a couple weird, like, one-offs,
Okay. Yeah, this is Stephen's investigation.
This is me trying to fill space, kind of, but,
nice.
these, not that these ain't worth talking about.
Like a seat filler.
Not that these ain't worth talking about, but these are places that we don't typically go because typically we have too much to talk about. And so I'm just going to bring up a couple titles here that are from, like, kind of lesser known labels. One's called Raro Video, and they're putting out a film called 100 Steps, which is a film from 2000. And I'm going to try to bring up an IMDb page, but other things want to pop in my way so that I can't pop it up.
Oh, isn't that the worst?
Yeah, other things pop.
I've had videos on pages start playing while we're here doing an episode.
Yeah.
But Raro Video is a company we don't really talk about a lot, but they've been around for a little while. I have one particular release from them is The Conformist, the Bernardo Bertolucci film. This came out on Blu-ray in 2014, and I've had that ever since.
You know what's funny is I think I might have that release or something else of theirs. I actually think I do have one of their releases, I believe, but I'd have to go to my collection to find it. But this film, 100 Steps, I think is an Italian film. Let me make sure here. Let's see here.
No.
Yeah, Italian. It's an Italian film. And 100 Steps was the distance between the Impastos house and the house of the Tano Badalamenti, an important mafia boss in the small Sicilian town of Sicily. If that's what that says. I could be reading that wrong. The movie is the story... Sicily? I don't know. The movie is the story of Peppino. Why am I reading this?
Yeah, in Peppino Impastato, a young left-wing British activist who in the late 70s, when almost nobody dared to speak about the mafia and several politicians maintained that the mafia did not even exist, repeatedly denounced Badalamenti's criminal activities in the whole mafia system by using a small local radio station to broadcast his political pronouncements in the form of ironic humor.
This sounds great.
I don't know if you want to read it. It sounds like a mafia gangster film from that came out in 2000 that was about something, back in the day the mafia didn't exist. You couldn't speak about them or else they'd come get you. Especially in like Sicily and Italy, places like that. I kind of dig it. Well,
yeah,
interesting
it's not a film I've heard of, but of course it's an Italian film, so I don't hear about all the Italian stuff coming out. But
no, and I think they put out a lot of Italian stuff. Raro Video does. There's Fernando De Leo, the Italian Crime Collection Volume 1, which had all these Italian crime films. I had one of Fernando De Leo's films actually, and I just bought this randomly. I used to, in the early to mid 2010s, I spent a lot of lonely Saturday nights at my local movie store, just looking over dusty shelves of Blu-rays, and I would just come across random things, and one of them I think was a Fernando De Leo film. And I actually have it down. I actually have it here. I'm glad actually Steven's here to witness this. It's called Shoot First, Die Later. And I saw this cover.
Nice.
People at home can't see the cover.
It is a Raro Video release.
But it's a Raro Video title. I had no idea what this was, and I just saw this cover and was like, I need this. And if people don't know what this cover is, I'll describe it to you. It's a painted picture of someone being basically shot in the face and their head exploding. And it grabbed me when I was in the store, and I've had this ever since. And I haven't even watched the movie, and I probably bought it 10 years ago. But yeah, that's how I know Raro Video and like what they're all about.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to look through the releases to see if I can find the film that I have, because I'm pretty sure I do have something of theirs. And I'm just blanking on. I mean, I wouldn't be able to remember it anyway if it's an Italian title. So they did put out a one of the early versions of Blood for Dracula. It looks like. So yeah, they did that. They also put out more Paul Morrissey stuff. They put out Trash. Sure, some of that stuff's going to probably get upgraded. But yeah, I mean. They're like I said, not a label that we see a lot from, but yeah, they put out Flesh too.
Yeah, a lot of Italian films. Like you've got the American title or the English title, then you've got the Italian title right under, and there's just all the Italian titles. Cool.
Yeah. Well, the other one that's kind of an obscure one is from a company called a Dog Wolf, which I don't know if this is just a new label or if this is one that's I've never unfortunately heard of this label, but they're putting out a new film called Lynch Oz, and yes. You know a little bit about this film. I hadn't heard about this.
Yeah, Lynch Oz is a documentary that actually came out this year. Is apparently David Lynch, one of my favorite director and many people's, favorite director in general. Um, he apparently is obsessed with the film Wizard of Oz, and apparently it's one of his most the biggest inspirations throughout his career. It says Victor Fleming's film The Wizard of Oz is one of David Lynch's most enduring obsessions. This documentary goes over the rainbow to explore this Technicolor through line in Lynch's work. Very interesting, because there is literal direct core reference to The Wizard of Oz in one of his films.
Yeah.
What's the one he did? I usually pull this up much quicker. It's something. No, not Something Wild. That's a different film.
Joe Bat.
The one he did with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, why? I just watched it.
Did you?
Wild Things, or not Wild Things?
Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me?
Something wild. I knew it had the word wild.
I know I had wild in it too, but I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Wild at Heart from 1990, which I believe won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. It is a wild film, to say the least, but there is a sequence in the film that is a direct reference to Wizard of Oz. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So I'm actually I want to see this documentary now, to be honest with you. I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere or anything like that. I'd have to look into it, but it's coming out in December 5th on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not seeing anything about where it's gonna land. If it's already landed somewhere, I don't know. It could be a film that's not even made its. It says that made it release at the beginning of the year, so it's obviously been just kind of hanging in the air. So maybe it's somewhere online and it's just not posted. I don't know, but yeah, finally getting its Blu-ray release at the end of the year here. So, but last couple things we have one title from Kino to talk about, and that is that they're putting out a film from 1985 called Ghost Warrior. This is a January release.
Nice.
I was going to watch this, and I actually started watching it and then realized there was no subtitles for this version I was watching. So I was like, the synopsis is pretty easy. I feel like I could follow it, but I was like, I'd like to know what they're saying. So I just stopped watching it. But the beginning of the film starts out where, this warrior rescues this female, and it's a samurai set in the samurai times, and he gets attacked by these other samurai, and then he falls off a mountain, and then he's supposed to get frozen in, I think, a lake, and then gets rediscovered many years later by these scientists. And then I know the story is that he wakes up and he starts going on a killing rampage. So it's kind of got a weird sci-fi angle to it. So I really wanted to watch it. But yeah, here's the synopsis. It's 81 minutes, in the time warp tradition.
This movie sounds very familiar, because didn't we just cover a film that is very similar
We talked about The Iceman Cometh.
The Iceman Cometh.
Yeah. So this is a different movie, and it's also not Demolition Man. In the time warp tradition of Iceman Cometh, Ghost Warrior, and a inventive fantasy adventure from cult movie king Charles Band, Parasite. Suddenly awake after 400 years of frozen asleep, a valiant samurai warrior struggles to survive the harsh challenges of modern-day Los Angeles. This action-packed tale is the thrilling saga of Yoshi, a master of Japanese 16th century fighting arts who is accidentally frozen in time and is miraculously revived in the 1980s. On the run from institution that ended his sleep of centuries, Yoshi must pit his ancient skills and power against the forces of a violent and confusing world. That's enough there. I wanted to watch this. and I still do. But
it seems like a very fish out of water scenario.
I'm wondering if it's going to have comical elements. I don't know. It didn't seem very comedy-like at the beginning.
Really?
No.
What's interesting is that the Iceman Comet didn't seem comical at the beginning as well. And then it didn't get comical until you transported that person into modern times.
Yeah.
And, zaniness ensues because
it's
person doesn't know what a toilet is.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of fish out of water movies with the samurai angle. Like even Blind Fury, Kino put out Blind Fury, and that's kind of like a similar like thing of like he's fish out of water, he's a blind man, and he's got a samurai sword. Like it's like a lot of these fish out of water stories with samurai angles seem to be getting Blu-ray releases.
That movie's very much I was thinking about it. It's a kind of a Americanized version of Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman.
Yeah.
But with Rutger Hauer as the Blind Swordsman. And I was thinking about that as well when I was thinking about this movie, because if you give me someone with a samurai sword and put him in a movie, I'm going to be, you got my interest.
Cutting like small things in half, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
like cutting
it's like
flies
you always
in
got
half.
my interest with samurais and cool stuff like that. But that's Ghost Warrior. Kino, I don't think really has anything else going on because we covered pretty much
caught
up
up with
to date
them,
up until that release, because there haven't been anything really, really cooking at all with them. But I think we're moving on to our final slate.
Yeah.
Not even slate, I would say.
No.
It's 2 movies.
Well, I mean, okay, it's 2 movies, and then if you want to bring it up really quick, we almost brought it up last week, but they are putting Umbrella Entertainment's putting out these editions that are like
a 3-pack.
Yeah, 3-pack of Australian kind of artwork editions of 3 big movies.
3 big horror films.
Yeah, Day of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and what's the last one? The Ring.
Hellraiser.
Or Hellraiser. Yeah,
You're
Hellraiser.
Way off. They putting out, and they all have odd looking slipcovers to where you're like, that doesn't look like the movie. Well, they're supposed to all look like Ozploitation slipcovers. They're inspired by Ozploitation, so that's why they look so weird. Like the Hellraiser one looks absurdly ridiculous. Like the Hellraiser.
I don't know which one looks the most ridiculous. I'm honestly the Day of the Dead one really like. I'm like, huh? Like it's. I guess it's the least. I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one is the least weird.
Because at least it look, there's somebody wielding a chainsaw. Well, Leatherhead wielding a chainsaw. But the Hellraiser one has like 2 people like running through like the jungle.
Yeah,
and it's like that could be as far from Hellraiser as you could get.
Yeah.
The whole movie kind of takes place in an attic.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're putting out those 3 obviously for, because it's it's this time of year, I assume, and whatnot. It's called Good Day of the Dead Big Bundle. You can also buy them individually, but you can also get them together. They announced this like a week or 2 ago. I think about 2 weeks ago. But what they announced for their December slate is only 2 movies, which is kind of odd because they usually announce a pretty, couple of more than 2. Pretty decent.
I think we've realized that a lot of companies tend to
They're slowing down.
Slow down and near the end of the year.
It's towards the end of the year. We're mid-October. A lot of the companies have already laid out their slate for the rest of the year. We're starting to get into the stuff for next year, and if you're a collector, you kind of got like you got your wish list.
Well, I mean,
set up for the rest of the year.
What you got to think too is like if people are buying these movies for maybe gifts for Christmas, you want to get it in before December, so it's
right.
likely that, and also you got to think about like you don't want to send out a bunch of shit during the busiest time to send out shit. You know what I mean? Like when the mail services and all the places are super backed up. Like you don't want to have large slates that people want to order and then they get caught up in like bad weather.
Well, it's kind of nice of them because I know people have probably, spent a good chunk of their earnings this year on a lot of these releases. Yeah, you're right. The end of the year gets very condensed very quickly. That Thanksgiving through the end of the year time gap is like so hectic.
Yeah.
You know, literally Black Friday is kind of like, let's kick things off into hectic town. You know, everybody's moving around for family things and all this kind of stuff and whatnot. But for Umbrella's sake, they got 2 titles. They have King Kong Lives and Twisted Nerve. Let's just take a look at King Kong Lives. First of all, both of these are actually kind of like special edition, I believe, Umbrella Store exclusive releases. I think you can only really buy them directly from them. Both of them are coming with a few extra goodies in there. King Kong Lives is coming with a poster, postcards, and technically it's part of their Beyond Genres sub-label thing. This is number 24. Twisted Nerve is coming with a daybill plus a press book. Very cool. But King Kong Lives is interesting to me personally because I just like King Kong and the kaiju films and all this kind of big monster stuff. You know, with Godzilla and all this kind of cool things. But King Kong Lives is a direct sequel to the 1976 King Kong film, the one starring Jessica Lange as well as Jeff Bridges. And this is interesting because Studio Canal is putting out a 4K release of that. We've got, I believe, a 4K... Is Shout Factory putting up a 4K release of... a re-release of it?
I think so.
I gotta check. I'm not sure because they've been out so much.
That might be just a studio release.
No. It's so they're not putting out a. I thought they may be upgrading it, but I don't want to speak too soon. Perhaps it's coming, because the only 4Ks they've got for King Kong is the Peter Jackson one from 2005. You know the original doesn't have a 4K release. The one from 76 doesn't have a 4K release, at least not here. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't overstating that. But Studio Canal is putting out the 4K of the 1976 film. This company's putting out the Blu-ray of King Kong Lives. So you got plenty of King Kong going around here. And this is, I think, the only Blu-ray release of this movie that currently exists is going to be this release. So you've got this movie that came out about 10 years after the 1976 film, and it takes place 10 years after it. So... as we all know, at the end of the King Kong kind of bites it. He dies in the original. He dies in that remake, and but apparently he's not dead, Stephen.
Well,
they've kept him going.
This time gap between movies tells me that they weren't going to make the movie, and then they did.
Yes, they did. It's produced by the same company. It's directed by the same director, John Guillermin, I believe was his name. So they were just like, we got to get in on this money, and so they kept King Kong alive, and they kept him in a coma for 10 years, and they decided, we're gonna revive him, but we need him to have like a blood transfusion, and we need him to have we need to replace his heart apparently. So they're gonna put in an artificial heart in King Kong, this giant,
where do you get a heart that
fake
big?
Heart. Oh, they made it. It's an artificial heart. It's a fake heart. So there's literally a scene with them performing like open heart surgery on giant King Kong.
How many surgeons was there?
There was like a dozen of them, just like all holding these giant sticks of like scalpels and like clamps and like to try to keep things going. It's quite a comical scene if I'm going to be honest, and. Yeah, but what they also discovered is they found a female King Kong out in some island that was near Skull Island. I forgot what it was called. And they decided to bring her in to take her blood to infuse into King Kong. But, as one would guess, King Kong escapes with the female King Kong, and they start wreaking havoc. And then the scientist portrayed by Linda Hamilton, post-Terminator, but pre-Terminator 2, and some generic kind of actor guy, that leading man going with her, has to chase them down. And then the army's after him as well, and usual King Kong stuff ensues. So that is King Kong Lives. Not a very beloved film. Just looking at IMDb ratings, looking at Letterboxd ratings, not very well beloved. It's not a great movie. It's kind of silly, but what do you really expect with that premise going into it? I watched it and I think it's fine. It's entertaining. It's pretty much what you expect. But yeah, so that's King Kong Lives. I guess if you're a completist and you have King Kong 1976, you may want this to complete the arc of King Kong, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, dude, you gotta get it. You gotta get
I
it, man.
kind of wish they would have brought back Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges. That would have been cool, but
Yeah,
I guess not. So that's that, and then
yeah, we got one. We do have one more
Twisted
thing.
Nerve. Oh, okay, well, so
Well,
we'll get to
no,
that
you're
after.
right. Twisted Nerve. I'm sorry. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
we
we
do
do
have
have
one more
Twisted-
slate after that. Yep.
Oh, okay. So we do have Twisted Nerve. Came out in 1968. I was telling Steven before this, Twisted Nerve is directed by the same director who directed Pastor Hall back in the late 1930s. And that is, I believe, Charles Bolting is his name. And once I saw that, I was like, no, Roy Bolting, not Charles Bolting, Roy Bolting. And this is an interesting film. So the song Twisted Nerve, many people have probably heard it. It's used in Kill Bill when Daryl Hannah is dressed as a nurse and walking through the halls of the hospital at the beginning of Kill Bill Volume 1, where she's going to kill Uma Thurman's character, the bride, and she's whistling that song. Steven, you know what I'm talking about? Are you trying to whistle?
You not hear me?
No, it cut out.
You don't hear me whistling?
No, I didn't hear you whistle.
Maybe. Oh, you know what it is? I bet you. Yeah, I have the limiter on,
Oh, okay.
so it cut out my whistling. Hey,
It cut
the
'cause
limiter's
pitch was
working.
the pitch was too high?
Yeah, I guess so. Can you? Let me do it back here. Wow,
Nothing.
man, we
That
know
tech-
this mic works.
Yeah, that technology's working on
That's
you.
amazing.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear yours either.
Really?
Nope.
I guess our compressions are working well.
Damn.
So it's da 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 da. So that one. Anywho, in my delirious days, one time I started walking through Best Buy to whistling that out loud. Fun little anecdote there. Back when Best Buy had aisles of Blu-rays you could actually walk through, and it
Yeah.
wasn't just one end cap at one end of the store,
Yeah.
or nothing at all.
There's nothing basically at all anymore.
It's sad.
I don't even really go there anymore.
I can't even. It's not even worth the car ride to go there anymore.
Unless you just really want to get a new release that's, is going to be there maybe.
Or unless you're in the area and you've got like multiple places to go. If you're going, if you want to go out.
I
and
don't
get something
go.
to eat
I don't
and
go
there
to
happens
Best
be
Buy
Best
on
Buy,
purpose anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like I gotta go for an extra reason in the area to go there. But anywho, at one point about 10 years ago, when things were booming at those stores, I just started randomly whistling that out loud. No one noticed. And if they did, who cares? But yeah, so that's kind of where that song comes from, is in this movie. And the song is called Twisted Nerve. But anywho, this film is an interesting film. I really liked it. There's a character named Martin Durnley. Is a troubled young man with a mother who insists on treating him like a child, a stepfather who can't wait to get rid of him, and a brother who you actually don't really see in the movie. He has Down syndrome, is in a kind of like a boarding school for those dealing with Down syndrome. Keep in mind, this is 1968. People had no idea really how to deal with any type of mental health things and things like that. And then basically he kind of like retreats into himself, and he kind of creates this altered persona called Georgie. And basically as Georgie, he kind of falls in love with, becomes obsessed with this young woman called Susan, portrayed by Haley Mills, who people probably know Haley Mills as being in the original Parent Trap film. But basically, his obsession keeps growing and growing, and it becomes sinister, and bad things end up happening. But the film reminded me a lot of something like Psycho. He has a very Norman Bates type vibe to him, just the unsettling things going on underneath the surface that then end up manifesting themselves, having certain triggers and whatnot. I really did dig it a lot. You can find this thing streaming actually on YouTube right now in the wrong aspect ratio, which drove me through the roof because it looked like it was in the wrong aspect ratio. Like the physics of the characters didn't look right to me, but I had to endure it because it was the only way I could watch it. And even finding it streaming, it's still only streaming in the wrong aspect ratio. It's supposed to be in 166:1, and it was clearly in 133:1. And I was just like, this drives me nuts. Anywho, I really dug the film. Yeah, it's in that same vein, like I said, of a Psycho. It's in that same era and whatnot. There's some maybe, twisted things going on. Haha, get it?
Jeez.
But yeah, I dig it. I've heard about this movie for years, and I just never had gotten a chance to watch it until now. But what was the other slate you were talking about, Steven?
The 88 films.
Yes.
Releases. We got some 4K releases coming from 88 films. And this is stuff that's supposed to come out in the first quarter of next year. Actually, 2 of them are 4Ks. I think one of them is just a Blu-ray, yes. So the first 4K we have here is a UK 4K. So the 4K will be region-free, but if there's Blu-rays included, there'll be probably region B locked. And that is Zombie Holocaust, which is also titled Dr. Butcher, M.D., from 1980. Yeah. Then we also have another UK 4K Burial Ground from the year of 1981. And then in 1989, a good year.
Nice.
In the Line of Duty 4. So we get the 4th movie in a franchise. On a separate Blu-ray, and I was looking it up while you were talking. I don't see any of the other previous films having releases from 88 Films, so they might be out there somewhere, but not from 88 Films. But I hear, just looking around, that this film is actually one of the better movies in the series. So that's kind of interesting that the 4th film is kind of a beloved of the series. But anything here interest you?
In the Line of Duty sounds interesting to me. It seems like another one of those kind of Hong Kong martial arts action films of the late 80s. That I'm surprised is not part of like maybe a set. Maybe they just don't have the rights to the other films, because there are other films in the set. It reminds me a lot maybe of like a Righting Wrongs or a Tiger Cage, something in that vein.
It is directed by a pretty well-known director, Hong Kong director.
Wu Ping Wen.
Yeah.
Who directed...
I mean, did the Tiger Cage movies, which recently got releases from 88, Drunken Master, just a lot of good stuff. So yeah, I mean, I did watch Zombie Holocaust.
Were there zombies in it?
Or Dr. Butcher, M.D. There's a few. It has a lot. It's fun. I enjoyed it. It's kind of a weird, kind of mad scientist. It's got a lot of mixture of different horror elements. It's not only it's got mad scientist angles, but cannibal stuff and zombie stuff, and an adventure angles and mystery, and it's got a little bit of everything, and I had a good time watching it. It was never really boring. A lot of good kills, a lot of ripping out eyes. Yeah, I mean, it's an enjoyable one. I'm thinking about picking this one up. And yeah, the others I'm not too familiar with. Burial Ground, The Nights of Terror, seems to be another Italian film, I believe.
Yes.
So,
it's
yeah.
called La Notte del Terrore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually has a Blu-ray release from Severin here in the States.
Yeah, an archaeologist professor discovers an ancient crypt which contains living dead corpses. The zombies go on a rampage and attack a group of people which the professor had invited to celebrate his discovery.
God damn it.
That's
always messing around.
Ah, man, I'm finally going to throw a party for my friends, and then zombies eat them. Damn, it sucks. But,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems to be it.
We don't cover a lot of other stuff that got announced were things from prime mainstream things like all these.
It's very true. Like Adaptation is getting a 4K release for those of you who are Nick Cage fans.
There is the update on the UK Studio Canal, The Trial 4K.
Yes. Yeah, it's now available for pre-order. So
that's cool.
Get that in while you can. Vestron adds another one to their Vestron Video Collector series with Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 and 4 and 5. Damn. Going
I didn't know there was that many.
Yeah. So they're putting all 3 films in one set.
Yeah.
Come together in one package.
Yeah. And we've been seeing a lot of Tarantino stuff come into 4K too. And I'm seeing a German release.
Reservoir Dogs. Yeah,
German release of Reservoir Dogs. But I know Pulp Fiction got a 4K, and so did Reservoir Dogs, and a lot of mainstream stuff coming out right now. But for the most part, that seems to be it. There is the City of the Living Dead 4K that Cauldron Films is going to be putting out.
Yes, they're working on that. They said they're working on that right now.
Yeah, so that'll be cool because that's a good movie. It's a good.
Yeah, that's about it. It's been a dry, not a lot of things going on this week.
But it's okay it's good to have a short episode every once in a while, and so we don't get too tired of us. But we'll be back, like I said, next week with Andrew Furtado talking some horror stuff and doing our normal show. So with that said, Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Instagram, Twitter. You can get me on my Letterboxd at Chasing Labels, or on the Facebook group, which is Chasing Labels Facebook group. You can find either of us there. You can also find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.